Okay, so we're going to talk about asking for a donation. How many of you would consider fundraising the largest part of your job? How many of you consider yourself a fundraiser? Okay, how about, are a lot of you programmers, like you do programming, but the programs that you do require money, right? A lot of you? Okay, so here's my first question. If you are afraid to make the ask, and sometimes I'm afraid, I'm not going to lie, I'm nervous 9 times out of 10 to go and ask somebody for a bunch of money. What are you afraid of? At the end of the day, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you go to that ask? Where will it go awry? Anyone? Really? Sky's the limit. What are you afraid of?
I mean, the worst thing is they can say no.
They can say no.
The very worst thing.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a fundraiser or somebody who does a nonprofit, period, we're so used to that, right? All the time, right? I used to tell somebody that it's a numbers business. I always think I have to ask 20 times to get one yes, normally, right? 19 no's. I'm so used to it. When I worked at Conner Prairie, I had a whiteboard in my office, and I would put hash marks for the no's because I knew that once I got around 20, a yes was coming. It's coming. So, yeah, somebody's going to say no. What else? What else could happen that could go poorly?
For me, it would just be, I don't know, I would be embarrassed to get to know, and then...
Yeah. I mean, I'm always afraid that I'm going to say something stupid, right? I'm also always afraid I'm going to ask you for $5,000 and you're ready to give 100. Oh, that's my biggest fear. Or I ask you for 100 and you, the most I can give is 5 and then I feel dumb. Yeah, okay, none of these things are life-altering, right? You're going to go about your day. Hopefully you're meeting at some great lunch place and you've got a good sandwich or something, quiche in front of you. You're going to go about your day. Nobody's going to die. They're not going to walk away thinking that you're terrible. The other thing that I want to say is this presentation is not about getting a yes or a no. That's something different, right? This is just about saying the words, spitting it out of your mouth. We're going to go that far. We're not going to go after that, right? I also want to say too, though, and this is a whole different presentation that I do, a no is never a no. There's other things you can ask for if they say no, right? Can you volunteer? Can you do a fundraiser at your corporation? Can you give me a silent auction item? We do a silent auction at Breakthrough T1D where I work, where we raise $400,000 in a silent auction. So that's always my next. If you say no, baby, I'm coming after you for a silent auction prize. I want it, right? So a no is never a no. There's got to be something else. So I always have a backup plan if they tell me no. What am I going to ask for next? Hopefully they'll realize that I can't get up from this table until I tell her yes for something, right? I once had a guy tell me that he said, Laura, if I do a foursome at your golf outing, will you not call me for a whole year? I said, yes, I will. So just being annoying, I'm perfectly fine with that if it'll get you to tell me yes. So, okay. So just ask, this guy cracks me up. He freaked me out. I want to talk about the agenda and a little bit about what we're going to talk about. There's 7 steps to a successful ask. Number 1, you need to target your donor. Who are you going to ask, right? You've got to figure that out. And are we sending these slides out at the end? Are we going to share them? Can we do that? Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, number 2, you have to do your research. You cannot go in there cold. You have to know who this donor is, what they're about, what makes them tick. You got to know all that. Number 3, you need to plan. You need to put a plan together. And I think that's where most of us, I think we just sit down thinking, I'm going to ask this guy for $10,000 or this woman for $10,000. That's not a recipe for success. That's a recipe for disaster. You've got to really plan it out. Number 4, when you get in front of them, you have to tell your story. That's so important. You have to tell a great story that engages them and makes them want to get out their checkbook. Number 5, you need to listen, right? I always say, when I go for an ask, the meeting's not about me, the meeting's about the donor, especially the first few meetings. I need to get to know you. I need to get to know what is going to make you get off your money, right? Number 6, you make the ask, and then number 7, you follow up. And again, we're not going to spend too much time on follow-up. This is just about getting the words out of your mouth for the ask. Okay, why should you ask for money? I once had somebody tell me, I get to know a donor, I build a relationship with a donor, and then I don't ever have to make an ask. They just give me money. That's awesome if that happens, but then I wonder, like, what is she missing? Right? Are you giving me $5,000 because we have this great relationship when really if I would have asked, you would have given me 10? I think it's important to ask, first of all, they know why they're there. Who says they're a fundraiser? Like 100% fundraiser. What's your title? Donor Relations. Donor Relations. Okay, what's your name? Patrick, if Patrick calls you and says, hi, I'm Patrick from Donor Relations, do you want to have breakfast? What does Patrick want from you? He wants money. They know why they're there. They know that they are there for you to ask them for money. I once had a guy very early in my career, I was talking to him about the organization, about myself, asking him questions about his kids, and finally he goes, Laura, what can I do for you? And I'm like, oh, he's annoyed. Why is he annoyed? I hadn't made the ask. I was going on and on because I didn't want to make the ask, right? They know why they're there. Patrick from Donor Relations, ma'am. He's going to ask you for money, right? So they know. You are providing a service to the donor. I always say when people ask me what I do, I provide a service. If you are somebody who has a lot of money, now this has never happened to me because I've worked nonprofit my whole life, and I would just love one time for it to happen to me. They go to their financial advisor, and their financial advisor says what? What does he say? Financial advisor. If you're richy rich and you go to your financial advisor, anybody know what does your financial advisor tell you to do?
You need some tax benefits.
You need to give away some money, otherwise you're going to end up giving it all to the government, right? I know that's never happened to me ever. He's like, Laura, you need to put more money away. I don't know what that's like, but yes, so a lot of them, they have to give away an amount of money. They have donor advised funds that only can be used to give to nonprofits to avoid those taxes, right? A lot of them have foundations. Like I work with a lot of people who they have family foundations. We never sit at my Thanksgiving table and talk about forming a family foundation ever. But they have family foundations. They have to give away that money, right? I am providing them a service. I am telling them, this is a great place for you to give your money away. This is what I'm going to do with that money. This is why we need that money. This is how it relates to you. I am providing them a service that they are grateful for because they have to give away their money. Let's say they're not rich. Let's say they're a volunteer and they have a couple $1,000s to give away. They volunteer for my organization. They love my organization. It is my job to say to you, hey, I know that you love volunteering at, I worked for Girl Scouts for a while, so I'm going to use that, with Girl Scout troops, like at camp. Why don't you give some money to camp? We really need to recover that tent, or we really need to go in and weed that trail so the girls can not get poison ivy at camp. Could you give money for that, right? As a volunteer, you're like, yeah, I relate to that. I want to give you my money for that. I am providing a service, and I truly believe I'm providing a service. I would have given more, but you didn't ask me. Has anybody ever heard that? I've heard that a few times. Actually, I would have given more, but you didn't ask me. So I just gave what I gave every year. Or I didn't know that the project needed $30,000 and I give $10,000 every year. I just gave the other $10,000. If you would have told me the project needed $30,000 to be successful, I would have given you $30,000. It happens a lot. Lapsed donors. How many of us have so many lapsed donors? I have so many lapsed donors. And I just started this job I've been there a little over a year. A lot of my lapsed donors are lapsed because they have not been asked. One of the first things that I did when I started at Breakthrough, it was called JDRF when I started. We raised money for type 1 diabetic research, by the way. One of the first things that I did is I looked up lapsed donors, people who had given $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 and all of a sudden just stopped. Didn't dwindle, stopped. A lot of it happened when? 2020 pandemic, right? We decreased our staff. We had to raise more money, but we weren't doing programming, so we couldn't ask for that sponsorship because the program wasn't happening. I started calling them, and a lot of them said, oh, I didn't give this year because no one asked me. I haven't heard from anybody in like 2 years. So a lot of lapsed donors, they're lapsed just because nobody's asked them, nobody's talked to them in all those years. Personalization is the key. Emails don't always work. You send a donor email out to 2,000 people, 200 people, whatever your database looks like. You think you've asked them, you haven't asked them. They look at that email and they know, right? They know that email went out to 200 people. So personalization, I have to ask you directly, only you, not 500 people in an email. Okay, step 1, you need to target your donor. All right, here's what I want to know. You have 4 people here, and you should ask them all, by the way, so all right answers, but who would you prioritize? We have Kelly. She's a longtime volunteer. She has 3 kids, a part-time job. She's married. I don't know who she's married to. I don't know if he has a lot of money or not. Maybe. Brian, he's 27. He's the son of one of your major donors. He has a full-time job, and he's newly married. I actually have a Brian that I'm stewarding right now. Thomas. Thomas is a lapsed donor. He hasn't given for a little while. He used to give $5,000 plus per year until 2020. Pandemic hit. He doesn't give anymore. So there's Thomas. Tamara. Tamara is a current donor. She's donating to you now. She is one of your board members, and she is the CEO of her company. Okay, you have time to go after one, just one of them today. Who are you going to make that call to? Tamara. Is everybody Tamara? You would go who? You would go with Thomas. Okay, the lapsed donor, Thomas. Okay, so why Thomas? There's no right or wrong answer. Why Thomas? Why Thomas?
I'm Thomas because no matter what, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to learn that no one asked him, I'm going to learn that
I love that.
something to upset him and I need to fix it.
Yeah, or maybe Thomas got divorced, doesn't have any money anymore, right? Yeah, you never know. Yeah, so that's good. So Thomas. Why Tamara?
Because she's on the board and she's the CEO of her own company.
She's your low-hanging fruit, right? Yeah, I think Tamara's a good one. I think Thomas is a good one. Obviously, you want to meet with Brian and Kelly. They're probably not as sure of a thing, right? And I love the fact that you said you're going to learn something that goes into the listening that we're going to talk about later. But yeah, I would probably go for Tamara first. Hopefully, I'm going for Tamara anyway. She's a board member. She's a current donor. Hopefully, I'm stewarding her. I'm talking to her a lot. And then, yeah, Thomas might be my next one.
Is there a worry about over-asking since she's already a current donor?
Sure. Yes.
Annoyed that you've asked too much?
Yeah. It's going back to the well, we all go back to the well, like over and over and over. Yeah, I do the same. I wish I could say I didn't, but I do. Yeah, there's a worry. I don't know how much we've asked Tamara already. And then there's a million other questions that you don't know. Does Tamara just write that check every year? Have you ever really sat down and asked her for something specific? Can you get her to give more? There's a lot we don't know about Tamara. But yeah, right. So going after that donor is really about prioritizing. It's really about making that list. It's about sitting down and talking about who you know, who you don't know, why you know them, why you don't know them. And it's really coming up with kind of your target, right? I try to engage with 5 donors a week. I really try. I don't always have time. That doesn't mean they engage with me. I want to be clear. Sometimes, fundraising is like dating. You get ghosted a lot, right? And you start to wonder if you're pretty. Yeah, so, but I try to reach out to 5 a week. Usually 5 a week, I can get a couple of appointments. I also think post-pandemic, a lot of people aren't meeting like they used to, but that's another presentation. Okay. Step 2, you're going to do your research. How would you research a donor? Give me some ways. You're a brand new donor, you don't know much about him or her. How do you find out about him or her? What do you do?
Ask questions. Social media first.
Social media first, yeah. You find their Facebook, you find their Instagram. LinkedIn, always LinkedIn, yep. What else?
See if you have people in common.
That's so good. See if there's people in common that you know. Does a board member know them? I do. Every Friday, I send a quick email out to my entire board. It's called the 5 for Friday. It's 5 points. Not too much in the weeds because I don't want to make my business. But at the bottom, I always say, do you know any of these people or do you have contacts at any of these corporations? Every Friday, I send them that out. So yeah, that's great. Do you know somebody? How else? How else am I going to find out about this donor? News articles. Yeah, Google. Good old Google, the Google machine. Yes, absolutely. Go and read about them, see what they've done. Anything else? No one here is stalky? I'm so stalky. How would you stalk a donor? Google? Oh, you all. I'm so stalky. I'm going to go to jail someday. Okay. I would look at my CRM and I would see what the history of their giving for their organization have they given. Now that's assuming you have a CRM. When I worked for really small nonprofits, we didn't have a CRM. I had to go into QuickBooks or whatever and see if they've ever written a check, and I didn't know what that check was for. But if you have a CRM, and hopefully you have a staff and the people before you who did their due diligence, and there are notes in that CRM. Does anybody actually have that, a CRM with no, me either? Never. I'm always going cold. But if you take over after me, it will be in CRM. One of my staff members for Christmas last year gave me a pillow that said, did you put it in Salesforce? That's true. That's always my question. Okay, so how much, what campaign, what did they give to, when did they give? If I have that information, I want to know that. Social media, we got that. Social media, yep, you want to go in. What am I looking for on social media? I get to somebody's Instagram page. What kind of thing am I looking for? What are they passionate about? Right, like if they're always at a baseball game with their kids, or if they're always like at a soup kitchen or doing something awesome, you kind of know what they're passionate about. What else?
Do you have any mutual friends?
Mutual friends, yeah, you can find that out really easy. Yeah. Anything else? Work history, yeah. Where do they work? What have they done? Where have they been? Yeah, LinkedIn especially is great for that. Oh, you guys aren't stalky at all. Yes, thank you. Are you just trying not to be creepy and it really is in your head? You just don't want to. I'll say it. I'll say it. Do they have kids? What does their house look like? Where do they go to dinner, right? If you're going to dinner at St. Elmo's in Indianapolis twice a week, my ask just went up quite a bit, right? Somebody told me once if you have a boat, that means you have disposable income. That boat takes every penny of disposable income I have, so that's a lie. Yeah, so those are the kind of things you look for on social media. Who knows him or her? We said that. Do you have board members who have a connection? Do you have friends who have a connection? Somebody you're comfortable enough to call and say, hey, I'm going to go after XYZ for a donation. What do you know about him or her? What can you tell me? Can you help me out? Can you just give me some background information? I think that's always good. Volunteers, other donors. Who knows this person? Google them. Family members, LinkedIn, we talked about that. News articles, so great. Anything you can find out about them on the internet. You all, if you have their address, you go to Zillow and you look at their house. You don't drive by, that gets creepy. And if you do, no, you don't drive by. You do not look in their windows, I want to be clear. But Google their house. How many square feet is it? How much did it sell for? Zillow will also tell you how much they owe, usually. I don't know how accurate that is, but it'll usually tell you, do they own their house? Did they buy a $4 million house last year and they have it paid off? People. That's my kind of person. So yeah, no, I'll look at their house. I'll see where they live. These are things I want to know. If I have their address, these are things I want to know. I also have a son who started dating, and I do the same thing with the people that he's dating. So to be clear, this can work in other areas of your life. Pro tip. Okay. Step 3, you need to plan. So I know who I'm going to ask. Hopefully I know a little bit about them. We have to make a plan. So the first thing, what might you ask for? So let's say I am, what kind of a nonprofit? What nonprofit are you in? What do you do? You're a tech foundation. Okay. So what kind of things would you ask me? You're not asking me for anything. I don't understand. Oh, educational programming. Okay, I love that. Kids, not kids?
College students.
College students. Okay. So I'm going to go ask somebody for a gift for my organization, which teaches tech to college students. Did I get that right?
It's Ivy Tech.
Oh, Ivy Tech. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you said tech. I know what Ivy Tech is. Okay, I gotcha. Okay, Ivy Tech. So we're a university. I'm going to go ask a donor for some money for Ivy Tech. Okay. I go to their social media and I find out that they have a student or they have a son or a daughter who works in nursing. Ivy Tech does nursing, right? Okay, they work in nursing, right? So what might I ask them for? I might ask them for money for the nursing program or something that we're doing with the nursing. If I find out that they love animals, you can always see pictures of their dogs. I might ask, I don't know if Ivy Tech does any animal care, but you might ask them for a program that has something to do with that. I think that, you come up with the ask. You never just want to say, give me 10 grand, right? I will say though, a lot of us, that general operating, right? I have a t-shirt that says, I am not general operating. I am. But I think that's hard, right? Everybody wants to give to the kids. Everybody wants to give to the dogs. Everybody wants to give to the hungry. But sometimes, man, you just got to keep the lights on, right? So I've made asks, or I've said, look, my programs are funded. My donors all want to give. You know what I really need money for? We need a new copy machine. We're dying in there. Help us make a difference. Just help the staff. Like, you can make that ask. It's okay. Like, a lot of donors will okay, I'll do it. I'll put your name on the copy machine. I don't know. Okay. Who might you bring along? So now I know what I'm going to ask for. I know a little bit about the donor. Who might I bring with me? Am I going to go? Maybe I'm going to go alone. I do that a lot. But if I'm not going to go alone, who might I bring with me? Somebody who's connected. Yeah, your contact. Yeah, who else? What if I'm asking for a kids program to help them learn how to eat right? Who might I bring with me?
Subject matter expert.
Mm-hmm. A nutritionist or somebody that can really speak to the program. When I worked at Girl Scouts, our department is just fundraising. So I didn't run the programming. I would frequently grab the person because they would ask me questions and I didn't know. And I could make them up, but probably wrong. So I would bring the person along who does the program. Anyone else that you might bring with you? Executive director would be great. A board member would be amazing. Somebody who believes in the mission and can tell why they give to the mission. Another donor. Yeah. How about one of the kids? I've brought kids. I mean, not 3-year-olds, let's be clear. But I've brought teenagers along who have benefited from our program, people in the program who can say, this is how this program changed my life. I've done that. Now, they totally freak out when you start asking for money. It's hilarious, so you got to prep them. But yeah, I've done that for sure. Where will you meet? Where do you go? I'm a restaurant person. I want to have food in front of me because it gives me something to do with my hands while I'm talking to the donor. But sometimes I don't have the budget for that, right? Like my food budgets for donors are gone, so I can buy them coffee. But where else? Where else might you meet? Your facility. Right. Soup kitchen. You have a great facility. You can take me around. You can show me. You can show me the great stuff that you do. Not a lot of people will let donors into the lab when we're doing type 1 diabetes research, so that's not so much an option for me unless they're a really big donor and I can finagle it. But yeah, if you have a facility, Girl Scouts, we used to take them out to the camps. We used to take them to troop meetings. We used to take them out to see exactly what we're doing. So yeah, you could absolutely do that. How about their office? I don't know about you all. I have trouble finding people who actually want to meet me in person. And I'm lovely. I don't know why. But a lot of people just don't want to meet me in person. So I will say to them, there's a guy at the Pacers actually right now, and I sent him an email yesterday, and I said, look, I will come to your office. Please give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes in your office. I have emailed this guy and called this guy. I mean, I have not driven by his house, but I know what it looks like. But yeah, so I just said, 5 minutes at your office. That's all I need. If you could just give me that. I haven't heard back yet. We'll see. He's ghosted me, though. He doesn't think I'm pretty. Okay. What story will you tell? Okay, so we are going to ask for the nursing program at Ivy Tech. What kind of story am I going to tell that donor who has a kid who's a nurse?
I guess, like, this person has a passion for helping people, but they don't have any money.
Yeah.
They're from a,
Yeah. I love it.
like.
Yeah, tell them about somebody in the program, right? Tell them about a Girl Scout. I used to tell them about all the girls who lived in a certain part of Indianapolis, and they didn't have transportation to go to a troop meeting, and their mother worked 2 jobs. I would make up this fictional kid, and I would just tell the story because obviously I could not talk to them about the real kids because of privacy concerns. But yeah, that's such a great story to tell. Something that pulls at the heartstrings, that tells you about this is where your money would go. This is the type of person who would use what we're asking you to fund. Yes. What questions will you pose to the donor? Does anybody have questions that they ask every single donor?
Ask them their story.
Ask them their story. I love that. Yes, yeah. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. Anything else?
That's what they're passionate about.
Yeah. What are you passionate about? I'll be really direct, especially if you're a corporate person. Not so much if you're individual, unless I really know you. But I'll ask, can you tell me about a time when you gave to a nonprofit and you thought it was hugely successful? Or can you tell me about a nonprofit that you give recurring gifts to, that you have given a gift over and over? Tell me about that nonprofit. Tell me why you give. Tell me why you give to us. If you're one of our donors, why do you give to us? And I'll also ask them, hey, if you were going to give a gift, what kind of range are we talking? I especially ask corporations that. They'll say, we would love to support your organization. Sometimes that's a lie. They know they're not going to. But what kind of range are we talking? And then I let them say it. I don't say 5,000, like kind of range. And then I just sit back and let them tell me. So yeah, those are the kind of, I ask really direct questions because I want to make sure my ask is a good one. I want to make sure I'm asking you for what you want to hear. The meeting's about you. What do you want to hear about? And how will you phrase the ask? And we'll talk about this here in a minute. Okay, telling the story. When you tell a story, you spark a connection. That is the power of storytelling. That's the truth, right? I can tell you all kinds of stories about Girl Scouts, all kinds of stories about people with type 1 diabetes and the struggles they have every single day. They make 850 decisions a day more than somebody without type 1 diabetes. It's tough. I also worked with the Children's Theater, still work with the Children's Theater. I can tell you all about how theater transforms the lives of kids every single day. Hopefully, I did put this in, hopefully you don't have to make the ask at the first meeting. We want relationships, not transactions. I have a little Post-it note on my computer that says, relationships, not transactions. You are not a check to me. Hopefully, in a perfect world, I will meet you for breakfast a couple of times. I will talk to you a few times before I make an ask. I will know who you are. You will trust me. That's really important. Relationships, not transactions. That's really important. All right. Step 5, listen. Please listen. The first thing that happens when you take out a new fundraiser is what? Has anybody ever gone to a breakfast or a lunch or a meeting with a donor with a brand new fundraiser? And they just talk all the time. They're just so nervous if there's any kind of dead air, and I just put my hand on their knee like, breathe, right? But you need to listen. If they begin talking in the middle of you telling them this heartwarming story that's meant to make them cry, stop telling it and listen. Listen to what they're saying, right? If they don't speak, I have a few questions that I ask them. I see you've been involved with our organization for 9 years. Can you tell me how that started? How did you become familiar with us in the first place? I ask them that question all the time. We're so grateful for the support you've given previously. There's a lot of organizations out there where you can give your money, 700 plus in this county alone, right? Why do you give to us? Can you tell me a little bit about why we're so happy that you do? But why? Why? If you don't know much about them, if they're not a previous donor, I'll ask them about the Colts. I'll ask them about the fever. I'll ask them about their kids. Hey, I stalked you on social media and I drove by your house and I saw your kids. That one, not so cute, but the other one, real pretty. Tell me about her, right? I'll ask about their kids. Ask about their job. How did you start working at Ivy Tech? How did that happen? Have you always wanted to work for a university? Like, I ask them questions like that. Get to know them and use this information to target your pitch. If I am asking you for a copy machine and you tell me that the reason you support our organization is because you love that your money goes directly toward research. Well, now I'm going to pivot. I'm not going to ask you for the copy machine anymore, right? Oh, bad. Abort mission, right? That's called pivoting on the porch. I would say pivot on the porch from when salespeople used to come to your door and sell you stuff, and then they find out that, oh, you don't need a vacuum cleaner, but you might pivot on the porch. Let's pivot, right? So we once, at Girl Scouts, I was meeting with another one of it was a Zoom meeting, and we were talking to a corporate donor, and we were going to pitch a program to him, and he started talking about how it was really important to him to give money toward programs that really emphasize diversity. Well, the program we were talking about, it was not the most diverse program we ever did. So I'm texting her like, abort mission, abort mission, abort mission. Don't ask for that program because it was not the most diverse program we do. We had another program, though, that was all about minorities and had a lot of diversity. So we're going to make that ask, right? So again, you have to listen. You have to ask them questions and listen. If you just come in and I know I'm going to ask you for a copy machine, and I don't listen to what you're saying and I ask you for a copy machine and you want to feed dogs, I've screwed up, right? So you have to listen. That's really important. All right, I love all these scared pictures of business people. They crack me up. All right, so just ask. So if you're going to make an ask, I always use the word you. I would like for you to give. Would you consider? I think that you would be great if you could support this. I need your support. You. It's them. It's personalized. I never use the word donate. Now, I don't know if this is a deal breaker. Nobody's going to I was going to give you $1 million, but you said the word donate, so now I'm not going to give you anything. I don't know that that's ever happened. I don't like the word donate. I use make a change. I would love for you to make a change. I would love for you to partner, give, support. Make a lasting impact is one of my favorites. I love make a lasting impact. I usually don't use donate. I think it sounds really cold. It's, again, transaction. This is much more focused on relationships. Okay, use a positive statement, not a negative one. Say, with this gift, we can feed 1,000 students. Not, 1,000 students will starve to death if you do not make this gift, right? I like positive statements. And then why? You always want to say why. Why is it important? There's a I don't know why I'm obsessed with copy machines today, but there's a copy machine study that they did several years back when people used to wait in line for copy machines. And they would find a time when there was a long line for the copy machine, and they would have somebody come up and say, hey, is there any way I could cut in front of you and make these copies? When they said that, people would not. Most people would not let them cut in front. But if they said, hey, is there any way I can cut in front of you and make these copies? My boss just made a last-minute change on a document that I need for a meeting in 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. You told me why, right? You're not just somebody who, doesn't value my time. You really have a legit reason why you need to cut in front of me at the copier. Okay, sure, cut in front of me at the copier. I'll get a cup of coffee, make your copies. So that's what they found. If you tell them why you have to cut in front of them at the copy machine, they're more likely to let you cut in front of them. If I tell you why I need that $10,000 and the difference it's going to make, I have a much better chance of getting that money from you. Okay, I found pictures of real dogs that were hungry, and I just couldn't put them up here. They broke my heart. So this is an AI dog holding a dog bowl that I think is much better. Okay, so here's some great examples of ask statements. Would you be willing to help us make a lasting impact by contributing $10,000 over the next 2 years to ensure that our dogs are fed and cared for? Such a great ask. It tells me why. It tells me how much. It tells me how I can pay it, right? Lasting impact. Did you make I love lasting impact. Yeah, so that's a great ask statement. I had to put something up here for theater, although that's a really blurry picture. Great costumes boost the kids' confidence and make their experience much more transformative. Would you consider a $20,000 gift to give us an entire year of our costumes so we don't have to worry about how we're going to costume these kids? That's a great ask. Would you be willing to invest $1 million to build a new hospital wing for elder care, providing seniors with the specialized care they deserve? Hopefully I've told them a little bit about that beforehand and they know exactly where that money's going. But yeah, that's a good ask. Okay. After the ask, be quiet, please. If you take nothing away from this, y'all, please be quiet. When you did sales, did you learn that? Make the ask, shush, shush. New fundraisers will say, will you donate $1,000 for blah, blah, blah?
But it's okay if you can't.
But now, if that's too much or too little, like we can change it. I'm happy to go home and ask for something else. Like, does this sound good? Would you be willing to make a life-changing donation of $1 million to build a hospital wing to help us give the elders the care they deserve? How nervous are you all right now? Did anybody pee a little? Anyone? Yeah. Yeah. That's scary stuff, right? I used the million because that made it so much scarier. Right. Be quiet. You all be quiet. Give them a chance to take a breath. Give them a chance to think about it. And then listen to what they say, right? Listen. And again, if they tell you no, that's not a no. They'll give you something else, all right? Okay. So here's the thing. I practice my ask. On the way, in the car, I will say this sentence over and over and over and over and over in my head. That way, when I start to make it and I'm a little nervous, I'm nervous. I've done this a million times. I had a boss once who said to somebody, Laura will walk over there and ask that guy what kind of underwear he has on. No, I won't. No, I won't. That's not true. I'm classy. But I will practice that ask. It's still not easy. You've done it a million times, especially if it's somebody you don't really know. It's not easy. So I will practice this sentence. I will write it out. And on my way there, I'm saying it over. If you ever drive by me on the freeway and I'm talking to myself, this is what I'm doing. I'm saying this over and over. So when I get there and it's time for me to make the ask, I can take a breath and just spit it out because I practiced it. I know, right? Unless I had to pivot on the porch, and then I might have to tweak it a little bit. But, and it's okay to say, it's been so great to meet with you. I'm going to go back and I'm going to put together a project that I think would be terrific for you. What range do you think you would be comfortable in supporting us with? And then go back. If you've got a pivot, if I was going to ask you for a copy machine and I found out that you love research, it's fine to go back, and then that's not ideal. You really want to ask them to their face and then be quiet. But I will practice this. So that is my advice to you. Write it out, what you just did. Write it out. Practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it. Then when the time comes and you're so nervous and it's time to make the ask, just take a breath and spit it out. You've practiced it. You know the sentence. Okay? All right. Do y'all feel like you can do this better than you could an hour ago? Yeah. Like I said, my biggest, just practice the ask. Just get it. Have it in your brain so you can just spit it out. When I direct, I tell my actors it should just fall out of your mouth when you open it. Just follow it. You shouldn't have to think about it. So same thing. Just practice it and get it done. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.